Does anyone have a question I would like to ask?
Stuart, I have a question.
Yes, Pat.
You were speaking recently about the sanctity of each moment and the sense of the uniqueness that we have to move ahead in that moment. Would you speak about that some more, please?
Well, I speak about it a lot. It's really not it's not so much that we learn this in our heads. As I say all the time, we have to grow into this kind of consciousness, this kind of realization that our systems develop, and organically we recognize the sanctity of each moment. Recognize how holy, how incredibly special life is, and that ultimately it is the teacher. I am not the teacher. You understand? Yeah, I do what I do. My job is to help people build systems that are strong enough so they can sit in front of the real teacher, which is life. And when we begin to recognize that everything around us is sacred, even the people we don't like, even the people that rub us wrong, that are like chalk on a blackboard, I mean, they are teaching us about ourselves. And that makes them into something special. We wouldn't respond to them the way we do, unless something inside us was the same way. So, everything becomes a manifestation of God, a teacher, a guru, and our job is to just evolve to a place where we can truly recognize this. We can live this way. And that's what I mean by the sanctity of the moment. I mean, whatever it is, I never looked at a computer as if it was something sacred. And here it is, allowing us to have these classes. I mean, that to me is an extraordinary thing. And it's not that I'm going to sit here and worship the computer, but I'm certainly going to be grateful to the people that created Zoom, that allows these classes to go on. And whoever thought I would think that way a year ago, 2 years ago? And yet everything in life, I mean, I try to kind of surround myself with sacred objects, ancient Buddhas and things like that. But they just remind me that whatever's around me is sacred. Every person who comes into my life has something to teach me. And this is a hard thing for people to grasp because we're so caught up in our own problems, in our minds that never shut up, our insecurities that never shut up, our victimness that never shuts up, the anger we have towards other people, and I keep trying to remind people that they have to go deep enough inside themselves to transform all of that. Even, like in the Bible, Christ says, turn the other cheek, love your enemy. You know how many wars would have been avoided if people would just start loving their enemy? Starting to love people that are of different religions. Starting to recognize that even people that antagonize us, they're teaching us about us. So how can anybody live in a sacred moment if they're not evolved enough to recognize all these things? I mean, the Buddha taught this, Christ taught this. I mean, I'm not deeply versed in Islam, so I'm not quite sure. But I imagine somewhere in Muhammad's teachings was all of this. I know Judaism, I mean, they have a prayer for everything. The potato, the wine, the juice, the this, the that, the air you breathe, there's a prayer for everything. So what I'm saying is that this is truly an element that human beings have to build up inside themselves to where they develop a system that enables them to live consciously in the moment. I keep getting back to this again and again because it's such a basic element of not only the spiritual practice that I teach, but of living. Mm-hmm. I mean, somebody asked a similar question this afternoon, and, you know, and yet in order to do this, we have to transform years of regression, of pain, of anger that we live with. Because that's what stops us from truly living our lives in the moment. I mean, when you know, Pat, you used to play in an orchestra. When you play in an orchestra, you have to be completely present. If your mind begins to drift and you hit a wrong note, boy, the conductor is going to throw a stick at you. You know? And this is no different. And the only way I've learned to do what I'm talking about is to build an inner life that is strong enough to do it. That's what these classes are for. That's all they're for. To learn how to grow inside to become a child of God. And this isn't a religious thing I'm talking about. You know, I always try to make that clear. We don't have to live in monasteries. We don't have to live in ashrams. You don't have to live in, you know, nunneries or whatever. You know, life itself is the greatest temple. Life itself is the greatest ashram. And our job is to build an inner life that is strong enough and developed enough to where we can recognize, you know, everything around us is a manifestation of higher energy in the universe. It's sacred. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, I have a question. It's Bob Sink.
Yes, Bob.
For most of my adult life, my relationship with the medical establishment has been rocky. And I'm taking responsibility for my piece of it.
Please, everyone, try and sit still. Now, go ahead.
And I would like to ask how I can ask and invoke for assistance on a higher level in the maintenance and healing of my physical body.
You know, Bob, you know, the answer is, have they helped you? have they helped you overcome physical problems?
Yes.
You understand? And if they have, then you have to have gratitude. Look, 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I had an operation. And just before, it was on February 21st, for God's sake, the day of Rudy's survival. And I said to these doctors, I'm lying on the couch. I said, look, this is a very sacred day for me. This is a really sacred day. I know you guys know your work and you know what you're doing, but please do this with consciousness. And then I told them the person who was the dearest to me, my spiritual teacher, died today. And I'm truly asking you to do this with consciousness. I'm grateful for what you can do. And they did it with consciousness and basically saved my life. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, I was in the hospital room and one of the doctors walked in and I said, doctor, the food here is just awful. So I can't eat it. This guy, I swear to God, he went down to Starbucks or something, came back with tea and cakes and this and that. It brought a tear to my eye. And I'm sure it had to do with what I said when I was lying on that table, that he did that. So, I'm not a big fan of doctors. I try to stay away from them as much as I can. And I have, problems now. I have a foot that's been swollen. It's going down now, but it's still swollen. But when I do go, I go with gratitude that these people have the knowledge to help fix the things that are physically wrong with me. And I think if you approach them that way, it'll change your dynamic with doctors. Again, I'm not a big fan of doctors. Every time you go there, it's just pain. Dentists and doctors, But I went to a dentist. I had a very serious problem with one of my teeth, and she fixed it. And after she fixed it, we just became friends. We were talking and laughing, and we had a great time there. So it's not them, you understand? It's us. It's how we approach them. It's what we allow them to do and recognize that these people have been trained in, certain, allopathic healing. And sometimes you need allopathic healing. I try to avoid it as much as I can, but sometimes it's necessary.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I go there with a smile on my face and try to be friendly with them. I bargain with them a little bit because they're so freaking expensive, I really do. They're not used to that. Somebody coming in there and bargaining with them. But then it becomes a joke. We laugh, And again, I'm not a big fan of doctors. I'm not a big fan of vaccinations. I all my life, I never got vaccinated. Any of those things that you got to do for this and that, I never did it. And when this COVID thing started, and 7 million people got killed, I said, Stuart, that's not the way you're going to go out of the world. I went and got vaccinated, 3 of them. Not out of fear, out of the wanting to protect myself and everyone that I come in contact with, that I am not going to give them that problem. Or if I do get that problem, it's going to be minor. It'll be like having a mild flu. Not that I like vaccinations, not that I even like teaching Zoom. I don't like it, but you have to accept what God gives you and then use it to the fullest of your potential. I'd much rather that all of you were sitting around me in a meditation class. it would go much deeper, much richer. And this is pretty deep. But understand, it all is what you're given and how you make it work for you. I remember once when I was in Denton, this woman came up to me, who I used to know. She used to be a teacher at TWU. And she said to me, Stuart, just be careful who you take as students here, and be careful about what you teach people here. And I told her, I said, look, I'm not, one of the reasons I do what I do here is that I don't want to become like everybody else in this town. I don't want to allow my life to become, you all come back now, and the way people used to live in that town. And I did it until there was no reason to do it anymore. And I had to move on. So I learned from Rudy, you take whatever the situation is, be it a doctor, be it whatever, an ashram, whatever, and you make it work for you. You grow because of the situation. You become more of a human being because of the situation.
Okay.
You build your spiritual life by getting bigger than the situation. And that's with doctors, that's with husbands, wives, children, boyfriends, girlfriends, cousins, aunts, and uncles, and anyone else you have to deal with. Find a way to allow these people to be your teacher. Even if they teach you what you don't want to do with your life, respect them for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Bob. I mean, I know doctors have really helped you with your physical problem, but does anyone else have a question?
I do, Stuart, Chris. Stuart, I've been your student for a long time, and I have a lot of friends that have been your students for a long time, Bob and Pat and Jennifer and Tommy and, Jan. And what I'm noticing is that now, since Rudy's Samadhi Day, there's tremendous acceleration in our work and shift. And it's just fabulous. And I would like you to talk about that a little bit, please.
Well, Chris, you're absolutely right. This work has changed dramatically in the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's gone much deeper. It's got much softer, more loving. It's got, really reaching for a dimension of consciousness, that really has to do with Ananda, that has to do with, bliss, with love, with learning that we are children of God. We are living in the middle of a life which is holy. And I want it to continue that way. And what's really amazing to me is in my mind, I thought, oh yeah, a lot of new people are going to come. A lot of people dropped away in the last month. A lot of people just fell away. Wow. And I don't know why. It's me. Maybe I'm not going deep enough to be able to connect with them. A lot of it had to do with this COVID thing and not getting a vaccination and all the stuff, which is pure not. I'll study with this one who doesn't require nobody says they can't come to the Zoom classes, And I'm not in competition with anybody, but that's, it's all right. It's not my problem. I mean, sometimes the tree has to be pruned,
Yeah.
And the whole point of it is the energy is getting deeper, it's getting richer, it's getting less forced. It's coming from a place inside myself that I never dreamed I would ever get to. It's Nityananda, it's Rudy, it's God, it's Shankar, Shari, it's, Ramakrishna, Sarada Devi, Kala Rinpoche. It's all these incredible teachers that have affected my life.
Mm-hmm.
They're all starting to come through in a way that I never saw it before.
Yeah.
When I talk, I don't have to force anything. It just comes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's here not only for me, it's here for all of you to take this, to grow because of it. Not to find reasons to walk away from it.
Now is the time.
Somebody wrote me an email today who I've known for 30 years. The tree is going to be pruned. I want to leave the meditation.
Wow.
So instead of listening to what I said and saying, oh my God, I really want to get the richness of all this, the person was probably a little bit insulted that I'm pruning the tree. You never know what comes from people,
Yeah.
I mean, look, as I've said many times, Rudy went for 13 years to study with somebody who I'm sure he would have loved to have Zoom with that teacher. He said he used to run from the ashram. He would get his teachings and he would run to Mumbai.
Wow.
Away from that ashram. But he went for 13 years. And I used to hear him talk about this, and then I saw it with my own eyes. And I said, Rudy, why do you do this? He's the only person I've ever met in my life who is strong enough to break me down, to force me to go deep enough inside that the only place I can connect is with God. Told me this.
Wow.
Boy, did that clear up some stuff for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's why I don't listen to anyone's bullshit anymore. I'm not getting vaccinated and not this and not that. I saw what Rudy did and how he got his spiritual life was a great miracle. How he studied with somebody. And he was there to learn. He was there to break himself down. He was there to transform all of the blocks and the tensions into him into a connection with God, to become nothing inside himself.
Wow.
And a lot of our work is becoming that now. It's becoming that level. And it's not that I'm going to be a badass with any of you. I'm not. It's not my nature. I used to be. But I was young and very immature, and people do things wrong. I don't do that anymore. All I want is to give away everything I've learned. And then when I hear people's excuses, it just makes me laugh a little bit. It's so stupid. I realized I had to spend 9 years of my life in Denton, Texas, a place I never wanted to be in the first place. And then Stuart, use this place to learn how to grow. Use this place to learn how to become, first of all, a human being, and second of all, a person connected to God. And it served me that way. It transformed my life. It also got me far enough away from all the bullshit that was going on when Rudy died. There was so much bullshit going on about who the new Rudy was and this and that and that. I was never interested in.
Wow.
So you got to find how any situation works for you, how you can use it to grow, not complain about it, but what can I do to use this to build my inner life?
Thank you very much, Stuart.
You're welcome, Chris. And then it becomes this.
Yeah.
Understand? It becomes a state of almost like total openness.
Yeah.
no longer me talking. It's Rudy, it's Nityananda, it's higher energy coming through that really talks.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay. God bless you all. Thank you. And there'll be a class on Sunday. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone. Again, I keep saying this, you're probably tired of hearing it, but you know, I feel very blessed to be here, to be sitting with all of you, to having your presence here, which is forcing me to work in great depth on myself. And it's forcing, you know, me to grow inside so that the teachings are really coming out this way. Your presence has demanded this of me, and I just have infinite gratitude to all of you. So thank you, and God bless you all, and have a great weekend, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all on Sunday.
Thank you, Stuart. God bless you.
Good night, Stuart. Thank you.
You know, they're in-person classes. I don't know how many of you live near here, but take advantage of it, you know. So thank you. Bless you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart.